All right, let's turn our attention to Ontario now, where a police chief there is defending his officers for charging a man who allegedly assaulted an intruder in his home. The case is raising questions around the limits of self-defense in Canada. Mike Crawley has been following this story for us from Lindsay, Ontario. So, Mike, in this scenario, walk us through what happened.
Yeah, Natasha, police say the incident happened about a block from here on the main street through the town of Lindsay in an apartment around 3 in the morning on Monday. Police say that the resident inside the apartment woke up. There was a man inside the apartment, an intruder. And at the end result of the incident saw the intruder injured with what police are describing as life-threatening injuries and charges against both of these men. The charges that the alleged intruder faces, there's 4 charges. They include breaking and entering and possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose. But it's the charges against the resident of the apartment that have got people talking in this town. He is charged with aggravated assault and assault with a weapon. Now, police are not saying whether the 2 men knew each other. Both men are in their 40s. The man who was the resident inside the apartment, he was released and is due to appear in court at a later date. That court date hasn't been set.
Mike, we know there's been lots of reaction to this story. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, the reaction is going all the way from here in Lindsay, all the way up to the Premier of Ontario wanting to weigh in. A lot of people wanting to find out what exactly happened, but questioning the limits of self-defense, whether somebody is entitled to defend themselves if they're faced with an intruder in their home. Here's what Ontario's Premier Doug Ford had to say, and he brought it up just himself. It wasn't like any reporter actually asked him about it. Take a listen.
So this criminal that's wanted by the police breaks into this guy's house. This guy gives him a beating, and this guy gets charged. And the other guy gets charged. But something is broken. I know if someone breaks into my house or someone else's, you're going to fight for your life. This guy has a weapon. You're going to use any force you possibly can to protect your family.
And Natasha, I was here talking to people in Lindsay, and it was pretty difficult to actually find anybody who didn't express sentiments that were similar to the Premier. Everybody was really saying, I would do the same if I was in this person's case. I can't believe that somebody would be charged with a crime when they were just defending themselves. We did also, though, speak to some lawyers that say, really, yes, there is a right to self-defense in Canada, but that right has some limits, and it's about reasonable force in the circumstances. So what we heard from a lawyer is that the police must feel that the force that was used was not reasonable in the circumstances, and the police are having to defend themselves so much to the extent that the chief of the Kawartha Lakes Police Service put out a statement telling people that their comments are inaccurate and unfair, and talking about the issue of self-defense as being something that does not have an unlimited right here in Canada.
Mike Crawley in Lindsay, Ontario. Thank you, Mike. Let's get some more legal analysis. We turn to our next guest, Balfour Durr, who is a criminal defense lawyer. He's also a former Crown prosecutor, and he's joining us tonight from Calgary. Balfour, thank you so much for making time for us.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I wonder if we could begin, sir, by just getting your initial reaction to this story and the fact that both parties involved are facing charges.
Well, first of all, it's not inconceivable that could happen, that both sides could face charges. But my reaction is I need to know more. I need to know more of the facts, because self-defense, while it exists in the criminal code, is the key is reasonableness. Whether let's say the homeowner here reasonably apprehended, a threat of force to him or herself or someone else from the intruder, whether the force they used in response was reasonable. So there are it's a really fact-specific type of defense.
I hear that. And at the same time, there is this very visceral reaction that you're hearing from people. We've heard the Ontario Premier talk about it today. We even had the leader of the Federal Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, talking in a different issue, but about acts of criminality and criminals getting away with it, and that we're soft on crime. I mean, what is your sense of that argument, that people feel they need to take the law into their own hands?
Well, with the greatest respect to Premier Ford, I don't agree with this blanket comment that he's made that just because someone's broken into your house, you're going to do everything you can, or you should be entitled to do whatever you can. It's not the Wild West.
Right.
Just because someone breaks in doesn't mean that it's open season on that intruder. There's so many factors that the criminal code says needs to be considered to make a decision whether self-defense exists or not. There's any number of things. It's what force is threatened. Did the intruder have a weapon? Mm-hmm. The size disparity, age. There's all kinds of things like that. History between the parties. What the homeowner did towards the intruder. So if someone comes in with a 2x4, you don't get to shoot them. At least if they're not doing anything with the 2x4. And maybe you get to shoot them once in the leg. You don't get to shoot them 4 times in the leg and once in the back. It's really depending on what's happened all the way along. But for the Premier to say, you can do whatever you want, or you should be able to do whatever you want, I don't agree. Because as I said, it's not the Wild West and it's not open season on intruders.
Absolutely. And I just want to make clear for everyone at home, no one here is advocating for any kind of vigilantism. It's a matter of understanding the law, and in an instance where it's not clear cut. So how does one, and I hear all those factors that you're bringing up, the various variables about what was the relationship and what was the kind of weaponry and how much. So let's go through a scenario. Let's say, Balfour, I break into your home and I have a knife and I want to steal something. So what is a reasonable degree of force you can use to prevent me from carrying out this act of criminality in your home?
Sure. And it would depend, of course, what you're doing with the knife. If you're standing back, grabbing something and just holding the knife, that's a completely different scenario than if you come at me with the knife. Because if I perceive that you're going to use lethal force against me, I can respond in kind. And one thing that your viewers should understand that's in favor of, for instance, the homeowner, is that there's a lot of leeway given in the self-defense provision in the criminal code. And the legal expression that we use is that the force used to defend a person is not weighed to a nicety. In other words, you don't have to say, okay, look, they're coming at me with a knife. If I do exactly this, I could maybe repel the knife attack without getting hurt. That's not what is required. A person is entitled to react and react quickly. It's just whether in the circumstances, given that latitude, we could say that falls in the realm of reason.
Okay. And as you said off the top, you need more information about this case. But based on what you know so far, Balfour, is there a possibility that the homeowner or the resident of that home will not actually face charges and the charges could get dropped?
I mean, that's always the possibility. Once the prosecution looks at the case, the facts that they have, they may come to the legal opinion that there's no hope of conviction and the charge could be dismissed. They'll make a legal assessment of that. It's, I guess, yet to be seen. But as we said at the outset, it's not inconceivable that, the intruder breaks in and we don't know what the weapon is that he's charged with. Is it a 2x4? Because anything can be used as a weapon. You could take a pencil. It's a pencil for writing, but if you stab somebody with it, it's a weapon. So it depends on what the weapon is. Was it a gun, for instance? That ups the ante.
It's fascinating stuff, and there is So much gray in this story, so much to be sorted out, and hopefully we'll get further details. But in the meantime, Balfour Durr, thank you so much for your time and for your analysis.
You're very welcome.